Hello everyone, welcome back to our Parsha in depth. Firstly, I want to thank all my viewers and for all your support. And I want to tell you, if you enjoy these videos, please share the inspiration with others. This week is Parshas Ki Sisa, and I want to start off with a story. So Rabbi David ben Shushan, he is a rabbi in Flatbush, and he says that after one of his lectures, a non-religious young man came up to him and introduced himself as Joe and said, "Hi, I'm engaged to marry a non-Jewish girl, and your brother-in-law told me that before I do, I should speak to you. I just want to tell you one thing. Don't try to convince me not to marry her." So Rabbi Ben Shushan was, he didn't really know what to say, and he's like, "Do you know, Joe, that if you marry her, then your kids are not going to be Jewish, and it's basically like you're cutting the line of Jewish, descendants, like you're cutting the line, basically saying bye to God." He's like, "I know, and I don't care." So Rabbi Ben Shushan says, "Okay, listen, if I pay for your ticket to go to Israel, will you say bye to God at his palace by the Western Wall in Jerusalem?" Joe says, "Listen, Rabbi, if you're paying my ticket, I'm in." Joe packs his bags and off he goes to the Holy Land. He's by the Western Wall and he's praying. A Jewish man comes up to him and says, "Excuse me, are you Jewish?" Joe says, "Yeah." He's like, "Would you like to learn about Judaism?" "Oh, why not?" So off Joe goes with this young man to a yeshiva. Joe's there a day, 2 days, 3 days turns into a week turns into 2, and 2 turns into 3 weeks. After 3 weeks, Joe makes a call to Rabbi Ben Shushan. Rabbi Ben Shushan answers the phone, and Joe says, "Rabbi, I have news for you. After being in a yeshiva in the Holy Land for 3 weeks and learning what it means to be a Jew, I've decided I don't want to marry her after all. And I want to tell you, I don't need a return ticket." Rabbi Ben Shushan says, "True, that's amazing, but I have news for you. I didn't get you a return ticket because I knew that when you say bye, you will end up saying hello to the master of this world." In Gemara, Avodah Zarah 4b, we learn that the Jewish people were incapable of the sin of the golden calf on their own. How do we know this? Because Rashi says that they had mastered their Yetzirah, the evil inclination. So Hashem decreed they should commit the sin to teach us a lesson. What's the lesson? That if the Jewish people who committed this heinous sin of the golden calf were forgiven after they did teshuvah, then certainly when a Jew does an avera and then does teshuvah, they will also be forgiven. But I want to explain here that we're not speaking about someone who says, "Oh, I will do a sin, I will do an avera and then do teshuvah and return to Hashem." No. Here we know that someone like that, the Rambam says, they are not given assistance from on high and they can do teshuvah, but it's very difficult. We're speaking about a person who does an avera, who does a sin. Afterwards, they're given the opportunity to do teshuvah. Gemara Brachos 34b states, "A place where a Baal Teshuvah stands, a complete tzaddik cannot stand." In order for the Jewish people, who were at Matan Torah and consequently would become true tzaddikim, they first needed to experience teshuvah. Therefore, Hashem made them commit the sin of the golden calf in order that they experience the great elevation of teshuvah. Now we have 2 questions. Question number 1, what is this greatness of teshuvah? Question number 2 follows on from that and is, what is the advantage, what is the minor that we have, a Baal Teshuvah has, over someone who's a tzaddik gomer, over someone that never sins? We learn in Meir Lies that it's brought down that the day after the Cha'egel, the day after the sin of the golden calf, Moshe told the Jewish people, "Now I will go back to Hashem and try to gain atonement for your crime." In Hebrew, we learn that the Hebrew words "ata," now, always denotes, not always, but often denotes teshuvah, right? So the question is, why does now denote teshuvah? Because now is talking about the present time. A person has to always view themselves in the present time, meaning they are not the same person today as they were yesterday, and they're not the same person tomorrow as they are today. They can always change. They can always turn over a new leaf, right? So that is why now denotes teshuvah. Now we have something else that's very interesting. Logically, it doesn't make any sense. If a person does an avera, how can they turn back the clocks and rectify the bad that they did? But we know that Hashem is merciful, and a person may sin in one way or another. But if they take it upon themselves to feel remorse for their actions and make sure that that sin doesn't reoccur, Hashem sees as if they're born anew now. Ata, Hebrew word for now, also denotes an hour or a moment, because in one moment, a person can gain access to Olam Haba, the world to come. It's very interesting that it's also brought down from Chovos HaLevavos, which explains that sometimes a sin for a person who's in the process of teshuvah can be more beneficial to them than all the mitzvahs which they've done their whole life. And sometimes a mitzvah can be more harmful to a person than all the averos which they've committed their whole life. What does this mean? It's a pella, it's a wonder. What we're saying here is this. A person who's committed a sin always is humbled by that sin, that they've committed that sin. Yet someone who's a tzaddik gomer, someone who's never did an avera, he may fall into the trap of arrogance. More important than not sinning is humility. And the Chazon Sofer says, that greater than not sinning is better to not sin than to forget God altogether. And that's why Hashem enabled the golden calf. So for the rest of history, the Jewish people, Klal Yisrael, would walk around humbled by the sin of the golden calf. We know that there's a verse in Malachi which praises Aaron HaKohen, Aaron the high priest, and says, Torah's and his house b'fiyu. He had the Torah of truth. What does this mean? He had the Torah of truth. What, you have the Torah of Sheker, chas v'shalom? God forbid? No. So, Gemara Chulin, Peites 89, explains that Hashem told the Jewish people, I love you not because of your greatness. You know why I love you? Because when I give you greatness, you are humbled. I gave greatness to Abraham Avinu. Abraham, what did he say? Anochi afa be'efa, I am dust and ashes. I gave greatness to Moshe and Aaron, and what did they say? Anachnu ma, what are we? I gave greatness to David HaMelech, King David, and what did he say? Anochi talas, I'm a worm. Says the Chazon Sofer, these three statements, when you take the first letter of each of these statements, you take the Alpha, Aleph, from what Avraham Avinu said, and you take the Mem from what Moshe and Aaron said, the Ma, and you take the Sof from Tailas, which David HaMelech said. What does it spell? Emes. Aaron HaKohen, he was the one who embodied the Torah's Emes. He was the one who embodied humility and Nivus. Where does he get it from? From the golden calf. Now that we've discussed the greatness of teshuvah, let's move on to the next point, and that is, what advantage, what milah do we have over a tzaddik? So first, let's explain what a tzaddik is. A tzaddik, gomer, complete tzaddik, is someone whose animalistic soul is nefesh habahamis, and his godly soul is nefesh halakis, are completely in sync. He has worked on his character so much that he becomes a makabel, becomes a vehicle for elokus, for godliness. His avodah, his service, is analogous to a delicacy which is sweet and pleasant, as explained by Shneur Zalman of Liyadi, the Balatanya, in his work, Sefer Tanya, in the Kutei Moharan. Now, our avodah, people who are spiritual warriors, our service is analogous to a pleasure derived from food which is sour and tart, but spiced in such a way that it becomes delicacies that revive the soul. You see, a tzaddik, we know that he is only able to elevate to the holiness which is embedded in things that are permissible, because the Arizal explains that everything in this world has sparks of holiness, as in Sukkot of Kedusha. But the tzaddik can only work on things that don't hide godliness, because his job in the world is to reveal godliness. So anything which is evil that hides godliness, he can't elevate. A Baal Teshuvah, on the other hand, he is able to elevate evil that hides Elokus, because he knows Hashem's intent is to elevate everything to holiness. And that is why he's able to do it. By Matan Torah, by the giving of the Torah, it transcended the corporeal world, it transcended the physical world. And our Teshuvah engages with the physical world and is able to elevate it to godliness, to Elokus. We know in this week's Parsha, in the Parshas Ki Sisa, it explains that the key, or the wash basin in the Mishkan, in the tabernacle, was made from the copper mirrors that the women used to entice their husbands to be with them. Now Moshe Rabbeinu is a complete tzaddik. He can't see how these mirrors which are used to entice the evil inclination can be used for something godly. And he didn't think they were appropriate to be used in the Mishkan. But Hashem said about these mirrors, something which will transform evil into holiness, into godliness. I cherish these above all else.